So now that we're in Pixlr, I'm just going to start off by saying that this is a very limited program as far as what you can do. It's more of a photo editor. However, it is free and it is something you don't have to install anything for. So I'm just going to run through the basics real quick so you can get an idea for maybe a simple geofilter that you want to do down the line, maybe an on-demand geofilter that doesn't have to be too well designed and you just want something really quick. This is a good option for that if you'd like. So the first thing to do is to first create a new image. So click that button and then you can set the width to 1080 and then set the height to 1920 and then make sure to select transparent for a transparent background, and then you should have your geofilter file set up. So first of all, there isn't a pen tool and there isn't really a easy way to create really good freeform shapes. So you're most likely going to stick with geometric shapes and just regular fonts and text. So what you can do is go to the Tools panel, select the Drawing tool, and then at the top you can select which type of shape you want. Right now we have it set on rectangle. Then you could set the opacity and even the border size. And then you could select the fill color. So let's go with something like a green, and then you can go ahead and click and drag on the canvas to create a green box. And then let's say we want to keep that. We can grab the move tool and move this around. We can go to the menu bar and select edit and free transform, and then we can adjust this as we need to, and then double click off of it so you can apply the changes and click yes. Let's say we want to keep that box right there, and then we have this type tool, so we can click on that and then we can just click anywhere and we can start typing. And then you can set the size of the geofilter or the size of the text by clicking on this size box and then just sliding this slider back and forth. However, the maximum for this is 130, and then you can choose the fonts and the style for the font as well as the color. And then you can click OK, and then you can drag it by selecting the move tool in the toolbox and just moving it around. So let's say we don't want that box anymore. We want to change that color to white. So we go back to the text button and then we go ahead and change that color. And then move that around to where we want it. And if you want to create a drop shadow, what you can do is, let's close out of this text, go back over to the layers panel to the right side, and then right here you should be able to see the layer style, and then you could click on that and just go over to drop shadow and then select it. And what I like to do is then get rid of the distance on here, increase the size a little bit, and decrease the opacity a little bit, and then select OK. So we have a drop shadow now. However, there isn't really a way to add a stroke or a border around this text, so the drop shadow is most likely the one you're going to be using in this case. Or you can then use the box by drawing a rectangle in a new layer below. Let's say you don't want that box. Instead, you can also use the gradient option, which is in the toolbar on the left as well. And what this gradient does is if we create a new layer and drag it below our text, then we go to the top and select this gradient, and you can see there's several different gradients we can use, And what this is going to fade a color to either transparency or into a different color. And so what we want is, let's try this black to transparency option. Once you select the gradient from black to transparency, you can close out of that, and then behind on that layer, behind the text, you can click and drag, and it will create a black to transparent gradient that will act as sort of a background for your geofilter. Now if you wanted a different color, you can go ahead and go to the edit option and then select undo, and then reselect a different transparency from the drop down menu. And any of these colors, you can go into the opacity setting and bring it down to 0 to make it fade to a transparent color rather than to white. So once you have a new gradient selected, you can go back to the bottom and create a new gradient by just clicking and dragging on the canvas. And since it's on the lower, if we don't like that, we could go back and select edit, undo, and redo that. And since it's on the layer below, our text is going to show up as a background and then fade away into the image of the snap. Again, there's not going to be too many features in this program that are specifically built for designing images. So that's going to be about the extent to which you're going to be able to do things in this program. It's generally just going to be some simple text and possibly some interesting elements like some shapes or some gradients. So once you're finished with your geofilter, you can go up to the file and then you can save this, and you can choose the quality, and we'll just choose 100%. And then you can choose the format, and we're going to want PNG transparent full quality. And then you can name it as whatever you'd like. And then I'm going to save it to my computer, so I'm going to click OK. And then it's going to ask me where I want to save it, and I'm going to select my desktop and then select save. Now this may take a moment, but the image will then be saved to your desktop, where you can then use that geofilter file to submit to Snapchat. Because of the limitations of Pixlr, I would only recommend using this if you happen to be designing for on-demand geofilters that are for small personal events. And the reason for this is because Snapchat is a little less strict with personal events than it is for something like a community geofilter. In the next lesson, we're going to cover how you can digitize your geofilter using the free and downloadable program called GIMP.